Thank you, Mrs. Karcher. I appreciate that. Sarah, now I'll come to you for the roll call and determination of quorum.
Mr. Peterman?
Here.
Mrs. Karcher?
Here.
Mr. Servan?
Here.
Mr. Galvery?
Here.
Mr. Mills?
Here.
Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Jester?
Here.
So you have 7 present. You do have a quorum.
It's certainly good to see everybody present tonight. I think it's probably been a couple years since we all been here, so I thank you all for coming to the meeting tonight. I would also ask that anybody in the audience who has a phone or other electronic device that you make sure it's either on vibrate or it's turned off so it won't disrupt our meeting. You also have in front of you now the agenda for tonight. If there's any additions or corrections, if not, I'd ask for a motion to approve in a second.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Sarah, call the commission.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes.
Mrs. Karcher?
Yes.
Mr. Servan?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Galvery?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Mills?
Yes to approve.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes,
So you have 7 yeas in favor of approving tonight's agenda.
I thank you very much. Commissioners, you also have in front of you tonight the minutes for March 10th, 2022. If there's no additions or deletions or anything to those, I'll once again call for a motion and a second.
Motion to accept.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Sarah, call the commission.
Mr. Peterman?
Yes.
Mrs. Karcher?
Yes.
Mr. Servan?
Yes.
Mr. Galvery?
Yes.
Mr. Mills?
Here. Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Jester?
Yes.
So you have 7 yeas in favor of approving the minutes of March 10th.
Also in front of you, you've seen what the levy court action was on our on the projects that went before them. If you have any questions, please contact staff. Going down to new business for tonight. First one is CS-22-02, Calpines Kent County Solar Energy Center. Request for conditional use with site plan approval of a solar facility, public utility located outside the growth zone overlay district. We had the for and the against, and I will now turn it over to the commission for a question, Mr. Davis, or are you going to make the motion? Okay, go ahead with your comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to bring to the attention of the commissioners, I have a lawsuit that has been filed in the Delaware Court of Chancery, case number CA-2022-0287, which was filed by the Goldsboro family regarding the first application that we did, in fact, approve upon Route 9. And the lawsuit is against the is Kent County and the solar panel company itself. It consists of 25 pages, and I've taken a lot of time to read it. I read it 5 times. And we've sat here and we've heard a lot of debates, both sides, for and against. I feel very strongly that because this zoning application is coming before us this evening in AC property is basically the same thing that's talked about in this pending lawsuit before the Delaware Court of Chancery. The only difference is the issue of location. They're both HD property, and I feel that because this lawsuit, the first part of it basically talks about procedural things with the levy court, which has nothing to do with us. But the rest of the lawsuit addresses the issue of AC property. As I mentioned, it's a 25-page lawsuit. It's been filed in the Court of Chancery. I personally think it would be inappropriate at this time is to carry this application and vote on it tonight because of the close similarity of the AC property debate that's now going on in the state of Delaware. So I think we would be wrong to vote on this application. I would rather see what the Court of Chancery says about it, because it will have a drastic effect, maybe even on some of the ones that we have approved. And it would definitely have an effect should they rule in favor. If we vote on this thing tonight, I just think it's wrong for us to proceed with this, because I think this needs to be cleared away, and the court system has got all the facts. And I would like to say that each commissioner get a copy of this Court of Chancery lawsuit. I got it by accident, and it's public record, and I have that lawsuit. And when you read both of them, and I don't think many commissioners on the RPC is even aware of the lawsuit, and I have it here tonight. So I'm going to make a motion, because of the pending lawsuit, that this application be tabled until the decision of the Delaware Court of Chancery resolves the AC issue about solar. As we know, we passed, the levy court did pass for community solar. And from what I heard of all the testimony, there were really no major issues with that. But when you read this lawsuit, I think it will really raise your attention as to, should we be making this decision, or should we do the right thing and let the Delaware court make that decision based upon the law? So I'm going to make a motion that it be tabled until the court case itself is resolved, or if the commission would rather, that it be tabled for 6 months. We've done this before. We have set a precedent, and I'm referring to the rezoning down Sussex County or Kent County about the people who wanted to have the motorcycle track down there. We tabled that for 6 months. So we set a precedent on that. It'd probably be better if we wait to the Court of Chancery and gives everybody an opportunity to really see it. I really think by you not reading this court civil suit against the Kent County Levy Court and the solar provider, I think that would be, an injustice to all. And I want to be fair about this thing, and I want to hear all the evidence, the pros and the cons, and I want to see what the court's decision is. So I'm going to make a motion that to table this application until the Delaware Court of Chancery resolves this lawsuit that I made reference to.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. I have a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I second.
I have a motion and a second, and Denise has a question.
I have a question. First of all, I just want to put on the record that this is less than half in AC and the rest of it is in AR, so it is different. I don't think we can compare it completely. It's not apples and apples. But I have a question of staff. If this gets tabled for X period of time, then it comes back. The fact that let's not worry about what is decided at court level. Will this still be considered having been started before we had the
Before the new ordinance?
yes?
It's still considered an active application, and it predates the ordinance, so it would still be active.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I respectfully disagree with the planning director. The application, when it was submitted, has nothing to do with the lawsuit. It doesn't even mention that. It talks about the issue of AC property, that it's not proper, it should be in an industrial zone, and I happen to agree with that. So the director and I have a difference of opinion, and I have it here. It's a shame that I'm really surprised everybody didn't get a copy of this. I don't know what the big secret is, it's a matter of public record. It's 25 pages. And so I keep my motion on the floor that it will be continued till we get a decision from the Court of Chancery. If that doesn't pass, then perhaps we can do it in 6 months. I would respectfully hope that it would be done within 6 months. So my motion's still on the floor. If I need to make an amendment, we can do that also. Thank you.
I have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any more questions? Mr. Peterman?
This piece of property is both AG and AR, AC and AR. How much of it is AC? Do we know? Do we have any idea? I asked that question to say, if they would take out the part of AC, will that make it legal? And could we vote on that part of the AC only? Excuse me, Sarah. That question was for you. I just looking the other way.
I think you're splitting hairs when you do that. A case is a case.
I think you might be right, Paul, but I just wanted to make sure for me, before I vote.
Potentially, the Planning Commission could recommend to the levy court to limit development to the AR zoned portions. And levy court could do with that what they'd like.
Could you mind repeating that and speak up? I have a hard time hearing a little bit.
My response to Mr. Peterman was potentially the commission could recommend to the levy court that development be limited to the AR portion of the property, and then levy court can do with that what they'd like.
You have a question, Mr. Davis?
Well, you know, a lawsuit's a lawsuit, and this property that we're going to vote on, or was going to vote on, is AC. And the failure of solar electric generation facility is to qualify as a public utility under the zoning codes. And they say a lot of things in here. If the commission didn't want to accept this motion, then it should be at least tabled for 30 days so everybody has an opportunity to read this. And I know the commissioners haven't read them because I've asked them. I'm flexible. I can leave it up to the commission. If you would prefer 6 months like we have on other occasions, we set a precedent, we can do that. If you would prefer to vote it down, you can do that, but my motion. Or I'll go with your advice if you want it till the court makes a decision. If the court makes a decision and we do something else, then we're going to say it back here again. And there'll be a lot of litigation over this thing. So I'm open to suggestions